Everyone. Everyone's still trickling in, so we're gonna just wait a couple more minutes to allow everyone to come in. In the meantime, just some tips for you. Everyone's muted for now, except for the panelists, but if any questions come up during the time that the presentation's going on, feel free to write it in the chat, and then Jason and the panelists are gonna address them at the end of the event. And we're just gonna give everyone a little bit more time, so we'll be right with y'all. Thanks for being here.
The CDC today projected the death toll in this country could climb to 150,000 in less than a month. NBC's Joe Fire leads us off.
Across the country, states are shattering coronavirus records with nearly 35,000 cases yesterday in the U.S., the highest.
Hi, everyone. I think some of y'all heard me say earlier today, my name's Gabby, and we're really excited that everyone's here today. Thank you for being here and for sharing your time with us. I'm gonna really let Jason take over this, we can go to the next slide, which says that everyone is gonna be muted. However, at the event, if you have any questions, feel free to put them on chat, and they will be answered after the event, but during the event, if you know what I mean. And I'll let Jason take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Gabby. So just real quick, I don't know if that was just my end or not. Can people give me a thumbs up if they heard Gabby's, what she had to say? All right, cool. Ish. All right. So just a few Zoom tips. Again, make sure everybody's muted. Gabby mentioned that we'll have questions via chat, but I'm going to jump on in. So tonight, thank you so much for joining us for discussion about using LinkedIn for a networking edge. We've got a great group of speakers lined up for tonight to talk us through how to use LinkedIn for networking purposes. So first up, we have Julie, who is a career coach in our Career and Professional Development Office. We have David Altunian, who is our Associate Dean in the Monday School of Business. We have CJ Harris, who is one of our wonderful alums, who is the Manager of Talent Acquisition and Learning Development at the Luminex Corporation. And we also have Jill Denny, who is a Creative Director and Designer at Works With Consortium at Silicon Labs. So before we turn it on over to our panelists, Julie is really going to kick things off with us and walk us through why somebody should be connecting on LinkedIn and how to use LinkedIn for networking purposes. So Julie, take it away.
All right, thanks, Jason. So like Jason mentioned, this is going to be focusing on why to connect on LinkedIn and how to use it for networking purposes. So if you're super new to LinkedIn, some of this might be kind of the next step from just building your profile and that sort of thing. But don't worry, you know, that's something that our office can certainly help you with no matter what stage you're at with LinkedIn. But for purposes of tonight, again, we're just focusing more on the networking component. So I'm going to start with why to connect on LinkedIn. So kind of the main categories that I think are worth emphasizing. The first one is about visualizing your network. So when we're thinking about job search, I'm sure people have heard all the time, like, oh, it's about who you know, it's about who you know. And sometimes you got to know, you got to take a step back and think, well, who is it that I know? So I always tell people that LinkedIn is kind of your go-to way to visualize people that you know, where they work, what they do, and it's kind of like your database for keeping all that information sorted. And from there, not only being able to see who you know, but subsequently who those people know. So you can see not just the people that you're closely connected with and have a really personal relationship with, but then kind of what's the string of people just beyond them that makes your network that much bigger. And when you start connecting and building your network, that's when you can start exploring. So you can explore by getting advice from people. So these two bullets are really tied together. So asking people about where they work, what they do, what they like about their job, what they look for in people they're hiring. It's a way to connect and kind of get that insider information that you may be looking for as you're transitioning in your job. Also, aside from the connection with people part, LinkedIn allows you to explore companies. It allows you to explore job opportunities and that sort of thing. And then finally, the gain referral part. LinkedIn, as you start connecting more on there, it's a good way to gain potential contacts down the road that may be used as a job reference or job referral in the application process. Again, going back to the idea of it's really important about who you know. The likelihood of getting noticed on a company when you're applying for a job is much higher if you have an internal referral, which I'll probably let like Jill and CJ talk to a little bit more, but that's the idea. We're building our network because we're trying to gain referrals. We're trying to gain warm connections with people that we might want to work with and at companies that we might want to work at in the future. Next slide, please. All right, so to kind of further make this point of visualizing your network and who you know, thinking about Bacon's Law, which I don't think it's really an official law, but if y'all have ever heard kind of that idea of 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. So this theory that everyone in the world is acquainted with in 6 degrees or less to Kevin Bacon. So this is just my fun example that I like to use for this because that person that you see in the #1 spot, that's one of my best friends from growing up. And she told me one day that she'd finally figured out how she was linked to Kevin Bacon within those 6 degrees, apparently because of me. So I'm #2, my mom is #3. My mom works with #4, her name is Annie. She has a son whose name is Hunter, who has done some guest appearances on a TV show with Kevin Bacon. So obviously this is a more extreme example. You're probably not gonna find Kevin Bacon on LinkedIn, but this is just trying to drive home the point that I'm talking about is that, again, you never know who you know and who they know and how you might be connected to people and places that might be important to you in your career. So it's just kind of a fun visualization of that. Next slide. Okay, so now that you've kind of understood that it's about mapping those connections, I just want to briefly go over the degrees of connections that you'll start to see when you use LinkedIn more and more. So LinkedIn uses first, second, and third. So generally speaking, those first degree connections are going to be people that you know personally, maybe that you've worked with, you have a more direct relationship with. So the example that I've used here, Jason, obviously being the director in our office, him and I work together. We know each other on a personal and professional basis. So he is my first degree connection. And then second degree from there, I use the example of Alicia. She's our director of residential education. So I know her, I know she works at St. Ed's, but I haven't worked as directly with her. She is one of Jason's first degree connections because they used to work together in residence life. So she's therefore my second degree connection because she's a first connection with my first connection. So that's how it creates those different levels of connection. So then subsequently from there, my third degree connection would be someone who is a first degree connection with my second degree connection. So the last example, Audrey, she is directly connected to Alicia because she had worked in residence life as a student when she was a student at St. Edward's. So again, she's my third degree connection because I don't know her directly, but I could theoretically trace a networking path to her from Jason through Alicia and then down to Audrey. So why this again might be important is if I'm trying to find out more information about a job or a company or people that I might want to know working in different fields, you know, I might want to reach out to Audrey and maybe I want to have like Jason or Alicia help me create that link. So when I'm reaching out to someone, it's not just completely random and cold, but you can use your network to kind of create a warmer connection via that chain of your degrees. Next slide. So once you start connecting and building your network, there's multiple ways that you can kind of visualize what you need to within your connections. So when you go on LinkedIn, like you'll see on this page, you can filter directly within your connections. You can filter by your first or your second degree connections, and you can look for many different things. So if you're trying to say like, hey, you know what, I think I want a job working at St. Edward's. Who do I know that works there? You could add St. Edward's in there as a company. If you want to filter by schools, so maybe you're, again, trying to connect with alums, you can filter by schools, geographic location. Again, it just sort of depends on what your objective is and what you're looking for and why you're trying to figure out, you know, again, if it's connections working at a specific company or in a specific job or a specific industry, that's how you might filter with the ones that are already in your network. Next slide. So the other thing that you can do is you can filter connections just by looking directly at an employer. So if you have an employer in mind that you're trying to meet more people with, trying to learn more about, maybe trying to get a job there, this example, Dell, you can see down in the bottom right-hand corner, I've got 2 connections that work there. So if I don't know who works at that company, rather than trying, if I didn't know that Diego worked there, I could go to Dell first, and then I could see, oh wait, I do have a first connection there. Diego works there. I forgot, or I didn't know that. So that's a way to not have to know where the person is first, but rather looking at the company. And subsequently, if there were any alumni from my institution where I went to school that worked there, you could see that on this page as well. Next slide. So similar to the company, you can also see your connections directly from a job posting. So again, if I'm interested in this HR assistant job at Amazon, this would be probably a pretty good place where I might be able to generate a warm connection, because it looks like I've got 12 connections there, as well as over 1,500 alumni from my undergraduate and graduate institution that work there. So again, pretty good chance that I could look through some of those people and actually find someone that I'm closely connected with that could maybe give me some advice, or again, perhaps a potential referral in the hiring process. Next slide. So a really great tool that I love showing students and alumni often when they're, again, kind of in the exploration phase or trying to figure out, hey, who do we know, where are we connected, is this alumni page on the St. Edward's University LinkedIn profile. So if you search for St. Edward's, you'll find it's usually the first one that comes up. It's going to be with that logo of the main building with that blue background. And then from there, you can click on the alumni side tab. And very similar to some of the filter features that I talked about with the other examples, you can visualize, okay, do I want to know that they work at a specific company, where they're living? When you're in the exploration phase, I think a good filter to use on this page is you can get an idea of where other people with from your same degree program, like where they're working, or again, different types of jobs that they have. You can search by their job title. So again, it's just another way to visualize. And why I like this page a lot, kind of in conjunction with some of the other pages that I mentioned, is when you're looking here, you don't have to necessarily be connected with these people already. So in the other examples, it's going to show you the ones that are already in your network. This is a good way to kind of figure out, okay, how can I add some of these people to my network? And again, knowing that I have a bit of a warmer connection when I reach out to them, because we have that common tie of all being part of the St. Ed's community. Next slide. So I just want to talk really quick about an example of how you might send a connection request, because some people are like, okay, I've definitely figured out who I want to connect to, but I don't know what to say. I'm worried about it. So one thing that I think is a plus when you're sending a connection request to someone that's not in your network is there is a character limit that you'll see down kind of to the right of that box. It's only 300 characters, not words, characters, so actual letters. So the good news is you can't say too much, but at the same time, it's kind of an art of finessing, okay, how do I get to the point while still being concise, but also making sure that this person sort of understands why I am connecting with them. So again, you know, if I was reaching out to Jason because I was interested in working in career services, I might say something like, and hey, Jason, you know, again, if I have a connection with him already, that's a good way to demonstrate, again, it's not so much of a cold call, but there's something that's linking us. So again, whether you're an alum or maybe I'm saying, hey, you know, I noticed that you were connected with Alicia. If you have kind of more of that, something that gives you a common bond, I recommend using it. So I might say, hey, Jason, you know, I saw that you were connected with Alicia. I'm currently working in academic advising and I'm really interested in transitioning into career services. I was wondering if you'd be able to speak to me about your experience. Something really quick and simple like that. So he gets the point, he kind of understands how we may be linked, but I didn't ask for too much and I didn't go into too much erroneous detail. And that's part of the key with these connection requests is you always want to make sure that you're asking for something simple, like advice, perspective, whether it's wanting to know more about what they do or where they work or their educational experience. This is not the place to be saying, hey, I just applied to this job at St. Edward's. Would you be willing to be my referral? Or could you connect me with the hiring manager? If someone doesn't know you, that's not what you want to be asking for right off the bat. So the main thing to think about as we're thinking about connecting and sending these requests is that we're not waiting until the last minute. We're not waiting until we have a job that we want to apply to right now or an immediate need. We want to be connecting with people well in advance, keeping in touch with them so that, again, down the line, it may generate a potential referral or a potential recommendation for a job. That can't be done overnight. Another key thing with the connections is oftentimes people just are like, okay, great. Yeah, I want to work at St. Edward's. I connected with Jason. I'm good to go. But then they never speak to him ever again. So you don't want your connections to just lie there. You want to make sure that, again, you're talking, you're asking for a meeting with them. Maybe you're, you know, wishing them happy holidays, whatever it is to kind of keep that connection going, because it doesn't do any good that I have, you know, 5,000 connections on LinkedIn, but I don't talk to them or know any of them. So just the key takeaway being, again, this should be a long-term process and it's not something that you can just create overnight. You want to be constantly working on it and working through your other connections to help you kind of facilitate warmer connections with some of their connections and keeping that strong networking circle going.
All right.
That's it for that part.
Well, thank you very, very much, Julie. What we'll do is if you have any questions for Julie specifically, go ahead and put them in the chat box and we will kind of accumulate those and get to them once we wrap up our questions for our panelists. So without further ado, I'm going to stop screen sharing for now.
Jason, I just want to give Julie some major kudos. As a recruiter, she nailed it. So thank you, Julie.
Yeah, thanks, Julie.
Thanks, CJ.
I have to tell you that.
Again, we have our panelists this evening. We have CJ Harris, we have Jill Denny, and we have David Altunian. So that's the order I just kind of set y'all up in. So CJ, you were going to kick us off with the answer to the first question.
Sure.
Could you talk to us a little bit about what you see as the primary benefits of LinkedIn for people who are searching for job opportunities?
Well, I'm going to do it two ways. I'll give you from a recruiter standpoint, and then I'm going to give you a CJism, okay? So from a recruiter standpoint, we use LinkedIn to find candidates. If your keywords align with what we're searching for, like let's say, for example, you have in your byline, mechanical engineer. And usually we're searching for the titles or keywords in the job description. So we'll come across it and probably email you and let you know we have an opportunity available and here's how you apply. So that's one great benefit of using LinkedIn. The other one is also networking, like Julie mentioned. I love when people approach me and they got to send me something, because a lot of times they just send me a request and I'm like, who is this person? I have no idea why they want to connect with me. So it's great when they can send maybe 2 or 3 sentences, letting me know the why, the X, the objective here. And that way I can also respond with how I can help them or I can't help them, right? And then from a CJism, LinkedIn has a slide share option that is fabulous. So a lot of times if there's something you're trying to learn about or you have a job description and you don't recognize a term, somebody probably did a presentation on it. So I use SlideShare quite often, and then their learning tool, and then salary data. One of the things that drive me crazy as a recruiter is People will ask me all the time, hey, I see you have these positions posted. How much are you paying? Don't ask me that until until we get to a certain level. So LinkedIn has access to all of that. And so some people may not even know that that's available, but I tell individuals all the time, check it out. I mean, it gives you, it's not going to be to the T, but it gives you an idea so that you can build from there.
Thanks so much, CJ.
No
Jill,
problem.
what same question for you? And I can repeat if you'd like. You're muted, by the way.
Thanks for reminding me. I'm still in the office, or I had to come into the office for a video shoot, so I am in an office today. So, so the main thing that I feel like creatives use LinkedIn for is a networking opportunity, and I think CJ said it perfectly from a recruiter perspective. As a hiring manager, I go in and look at references, look at where people have worked, who they've worked with. And mainly I'm looking for a culture fit. When it comes down to a creative portfolio, a lot of times people have to have a website. And so if it's not on your LinkedIn page, I'm gonna wonder why. Or there needs to be a link to Dribbble, or there needs to be some other outlet to Behance where you have a portfolio. But I think that's really beneficial to use LinkedIn to talk about yourself, or to get those referrals, or to have people that you've networked with that are willing to talk about you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jill. David, same question. Oh, muted.
I'm going to twist this a little bit because I'm going to also try to answer Hanan's question on here. And I'm going to try to explain a little bit of the theory of why this works and why it's so important. So in social networking, there's something called Metcalfe theory. Metcalfe theory says the power of your network is proportional to the square of the number of nodes on your network. So the more contacts and connections you have, the more that you reach a lot more people, because they all have contacts. So if you have 100 users or 100 connections, those connections probably have 100, and that's the proportional of the scale. On top of that, there's something called Reed's law, which is of this massive number that you have access to, they tend to group in clusters. So if you can actually get a lot of connections and start building valuable connections in different areas, those connections become points that you can reach out to get references, to go, get introductions of companies. But it ties back to what CJ said. If you have a big network of users, a big group of connections, the likelihood, and they're not all the same type of people, the likelihood that you're going to pull up a company like Luminex or like Dell and find a connection that's on your LinkedIn that works there or has relationships there goes up exponentially. So it's not enough just to have a good profile. It's also important to have a large number of contacts and connections, and the connections should be quality connections. The more quality connections you have, the better it is. And I would also say, I think CJ said it right, they do look at, recruiters look at, your profiles, and they use these searches. But I know in cases of companies I'm involved with when we're doing searches, they're also looking at who you're connected to, who's giving you references. Those all matter. So I would say that's understanding the theory behind it. And I'll tell you my strategy. I was actually looking before this. I have 3,600 first level connections, but they're all over the gamut. And what I do is if I find an area that I'm interested in, I go look for connections there, and I start building more connections in that area. So if I'm interested in consumer packaged goods, for example, I'll go find a couple people in that area, and I'll start inviting them to connect with me. Because once I do, because of Reed's law, I'll get exposed to more of their connections. So you can actually be very strategic about how you LinkedIn to build your references in your network. And it really does help when you're doing more research.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So Jill, I'm going to have you kick off this question for us. When you are looking at somebody's LinkedIn profile, if you're in a recruitment stage, what is it that you gravitate towards? What is it that you're looking for? What is appealing for you?
I'm definitely always looking for experience and the type of customers that someone's worked for. In the creative field, that's a vast variety of in-house, external agencies, just what kind of work have they done? A lot of people like to have a variety in their portfolio. So I'm just looking for general experience, who you've worked for, what you've done. And then I'm really looking at your connections and the networking that I think everybody keeps talking about. I'd like to see if there's someone, if I know someone that you've worked with before, or if there is a second or third degree of connection. I've had friends reach out to me and ask me if I knew a designer that they were willing to hire. So that's really what I look for, what type of experience you have and who you know that I might know.
Yeah.
Thank you. CJ.
Hey, Jason, I'm gonna mess up the whole schedule, but Aaron Simpson posted a question that is really good, and I wanted to address it because I did it kind of on the short side of it. But the question is, people hear a lot focus on jobs and careers. Is there a different approach from an entrepreneurial standpoint? And yes, it is. There is an option called leads, but the other thing that I didn't have time to type in, I apologize, Aaron, is that as a recruiting manager, I get recruiting agency representatives all the time, entrepreneurs in the area of talent, learning and development technology, and they'll approach me and get feedback. I've been on probably about 20 focus groups to give them insight on how we use or how we recruit in the biotech space, right? And how we use learning and development technology. And this helps entrepreneurs with their products. And I love doing it. I mean, I started out in technology, so I'm always open to helping someone that's building a tool or building a service. So you can use the networking feature, whether you're looking for a career or whether you're about to start a business, and hit up individuals, I shouldn't say hit up, contact individuals that are would probably use your product. That's a great way, you know, invite them to a focus group or invite them to a Zoom call. I have a couple of companies who have reached out to me and said, hey, you know, we'll pay you $50 or we'll buy you lunch if you can, you know, look at this tool for us, right? So you can use LinkedIn in more ways than just career and jobs. It is so much wider than that. Think of it as a business networking tool. Even if you're looking for a job, you are Aaron Incorporated. Period. I don't care. You're coming to tell CJ you have a service that you can bring to Luminex. So it doesn't really matter. Okay. I'm sorry, Jason. What was the question?
I want to jump on, CJ. I want to build on what you said because I think it's really good. Because I also think I use LinkedIn whenever I'm meeting with anybody. Doesn't matter what kind of meeting it is. So even here, I looked up CJ. She and I have 28 first level contacts that are in common. And some of them have nothing to do with St. Ed's, like Marsha Osborne. And so we have some great contacts that are there. It helps, first of all, break the ice. Second of all, you can find out about who you're meeting if you're not sure about it. But it's a really powerful tool. I don't really do meetings with outsiders very often without looking at their LinkedIn and seeing where we have connections in common.
Same here. I agree. Good point, David.
Thanks, y'all. So, see, I think you've touched on this a little bit, both of you.
Okay.
If there's anything else you want to hit on that you do look for when you're looking at somebody's profile, aside from like the connections and things like that.
I do pay attention to the recommendations, especially if it's someone that I think could be a good fit for a role that I'm recruiting for. So I'll look at recommendations. I may look at their education, if they have any certifications. Also, believe it or not, I also check out if they've done any volunteer work. Individuals sometimes overlook the importance of putting, you know, I did volunteer work at United Way in this capacity or something like that. Or if you were an officer in your student organization, that's an example of leadership. So sometimes people don't put that on there, and we do look for that because you want the whole person to come to work. I don't want just a mechanical engineer. I want Aaron, the whole person. And so looking at LinkedIn gives me great insight on what people think of Aaron. And Aaron, I'm sorry, I'm using you as an example because we were all in this communication. But it gives me insight on what people think of him. And also I can see what he's completed along the way. So those are some things that everything Jill mentioned and what I just added.
Awesome. David, anything to add to that?
I think she's right on. I look at any certifications that you have. and I look at what groups you belong to on LinkedIn because it can tell me a lot. And I always look at the job history. But when I go look at jobs, I don't look at I look at two things. I look at how long they were at different places, and then how they describe their job. Because you can find a lot out about how somebody writes up what they did.
Yes.
And I mean, I don't know, CJ or Jill, I know you guys look at these a lot too. You can tell when people are fluffing up their, their jobs. I would rather have people be very fact-based, not a lot of eyes, not a lot of blowing up all these great things you did. I just want to know what the job is that you've done. I don't need you to sell me in that. And actually, for me, when I see that it's puffed up, it's usually a turn off. I mean, I'm always a little bit questionable about the person. But those are the things I look at.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to be a little anal. I do look for the whole spelling thing. But you have to understand, I look at a lot of resumes, right? So if you tell me in your resume, you were at this job from November 2001 to, January 2003, but your LinkedIn don't align, I'm going to catch it. And so that's going to be a question in the interview, by the way. I'm going to be, how long were you really there? So.
Awesome. Thanks so much, y'all. So now we've got to flip the question around a little bit. Do y'all have any LinkedIn horror stories? So I'm going to start this off with David. Any things that are just like big no-nos in terms of things you've seen on somebody's profile? Has somebody sent you a message that you're like, what are they thinking? So,
I'll send a message part. It drives me, and it happens now more and more when people write a generic, hey, I see we have people in common. Can we connect? Or, hey, I see that you and I are interested in the same things. How about, connecting? That doesn't tell me anything. And I'm testing this on myself right now because before we started, I sent a note to Julia Cheek, a connection, who's the CEO of Everlywell, because now she has come up in 3 different environments I'm in. So I'm trying by saying, hey, Julia, I mean, the chances of her actually accepting me, I think are pretty low. But I want to test it. So I wrote a whole thing about, here's the places that we have run into contact. Here's our mutual friends. I really would just love to connect with you because we'll probably cross paths. That's a better way than the horror stories of, hey, and I really hate when people try to make it casual, like they're friends of friends. Hey, dude, we know this person. You should all, how about if we connect up? I don't use LinkedIn as my social network for fun. I use it for work, and I question when people don't understand the difference, but I don't connect to those people. That's my experience.
Thanks, David. CJ, how about you?
Oh, I'm gonna keep it brief, but a lot of times I get a lot of people. I'll do a chat like this, or I'll do a on-site visit with students, and I tell you, I get about 10. CJ, I want to connect with you, and here's my resume. And I'm like, don't do that. Just don't ever send me your resume through LinkedIn. And there's a couple of reasons why. Every company has a process, and we got to follow the process. It's not that I don't want to help you. It's just that sending it to me through LinkedIn ain't nothing going to get done. But if you could go to the career site and see a position, actually apply for the position, and then send me a note and say, this is what I did. I applied for this role. This is why I think I would be a good candidate to consider. Then we got something to talk about. But just sending the resume to me for this job, you got to understand, I have a team of recruiters under me. So sometimes I don't even know about the job you're talking about. My title says manager for a reason. So it's the recruiters that are doing that, right? And I think that's one thing. Another thing is I've received a lot of sales requests. They've not met me, but they're ready to sell me something. And I get that a lot. I get a lot of solicitation. And so I have to filter it through. But now if I've met you and we've had a discussion about it, I don't mind. I'll add you. Because here's the thing, like David was saying, I may not buy your product, but 28 other people you may see we have common. And if we have a good connection, I may go tell my 28 connections, hey, I talked to David and he has a really good product. We can't use it at the time, but it may be great for your environment. That's the synergy that you want. You don't want to just be throwing stuff on the wall and think it's going to stick. This is my opinion.
Thanks, CJ. Jill, any horror stories?
I don't have any horror stories in particular. Kind of to David's note, though, I have run across applicants who have a glorified LinkedIn profile that had to have been written by 10 people, you know, so just being real in your profile, I think most of us can read through that really easy, or not having a profile at all, or not finishing your profile, I think is a huge miss. If I go to check somebody out and it's not complete, and if there's not a picture, we really do look for a picture of who we're getting to know. So I'd say that's the closest I can get to a horror story.
Yeah.
Right on, thank you. So, you know, I see a few kind of questions popping up, so I'm gonna kind of kill some of my questions and close out with one more before we turn it over to the audience for some stuff. If you had like the top 2 pieces of advice to provide to the audience tonight for how they should be networking via LinkedIn, or how they should be using LinkedIn in general, what would those pieces of advice be? And we'll start it off with Jill.
My piece of advice would be to keep connected with those people that you know. Some people shy away from LinkedIn or think that they don't need it. I connect with everyone that I've worked with: web developers, photographers, designers, executive managers. You never know when you're going to talk to those people again. And I think CJ hit the nail on the head or Julie did, with keeping that connection going, saying hi, just keeping that conversation going through the years is huge, because you never know when you're going to cross paths or reach back out to somebody you know or you've worked with.
Thank you. CJ?
She's right on point. And LinkedIn helps you. They'll send you a reminder that it's someone's birthday. And I'm gonna tell you, I love it every time someone sends me one. But we may not talk every day, but that's a reminder that, oh yeah, I know David. You know, he sent me a happy birthday or what have you, right? The other thing I would say is, don't be afraid to let someone look at your LinkedIn profile. Have someone proofread it for you. Whether it's at career services or your best friend or your best friend's mom or dad, have someone check it out for you. Sometimes people think, I got it. They type it all up. It looks beautiful, right? But someone else can look at it and go, okay, why would you say this and not that? You know, especially somebody that kind of knows you. So I would definitely suggest get someone to proofread it, and it does not have to be a professional LinkedIn editor. It could be anybody. Just have another set of eyes check out your profile, because feedback is a gift, and it's better to come from them than coming from me when you're trying to apply for a job or a business.
Thanks, CJ. David, how about you?
I got 2 do's and 1 don't. So the first one is build out your profile, but I'm also going to build off of what CJ said. Make sure that as you're building it, you're comparing it to your resume to make sure it's complete. And your profile is not just your jobs. It's things like your certifications, your groups you volunteer with, all those kind of things should be on there. So first is really build out a thoughtful profile that matches the resume you're going to set out. Second of all is be aggressive and thoughtful about and strategic about building out your connections. You know, I'm amazed that students will spend a lot of time building a TikTok or a LinkedIn, you know, not LinkedIn,
Instagram.
Instagram, getting that all right, you know, making it pretty, but they don't want to spend 20 minutes reaching out to a bunch of connections. So those are the 2, and the connections are critical, and a good profile is critical. And if you do those well, it usually will start building on itself. You'll start getting invitations from other people to connect. I get a lot every day. The don't is don't post things that are not related to your work. I am surprised at how many people sabotage themselves by putting political rants or rants against their employer or things that just should never be on there. You know, if you want to do that, that's really what the fun social networks are for. That's not what LinkedIn is, and it'll be found, and it'll affect how people perceive it. So, you know, you should post things that are interesting. If you've written a paper, or if you're in an article, you know, in a newspaper or something that comes out, you know, you should link to all that stuff and put those up. That's great, but make sure it's relevant. You know, you winning a bowling trophy is probably not something that should go on LinkedIn. That should go on your Facebook or Instagram. Those are my suggestions.
Awesome, thanks so much. So I know that we've got a few questions in the chat box. It looks like most of them have already been answered, but if y'all have questions, now is a great time to ask and let us know if it's something about kind of the tutorial that Julie walked us through, or something that's specific for the panelists. And I'm going to go up to the top real fast. And CJ, you answered this, but I was wondering if you might want to expand on it. So somebody had asked, is it correct to have 100 plus connections at least? And how can you build this connection as a student?
Right. And initially, here's the thing, when you're just starting, I don't want you to get overwhelmed with having to have 100 plus. Like David said, just get started. Just get started, and it will start trickling in, right? And before you know it, you got 1,000. But the thing is, you know, you got to be strategic, and you should look at who I know when I'm coming to these particular panels, for example. Go look up the individuals. I mean, this is a good segue to reach out to Jill, myself, or David. Just coming to this session, going to any of the sessions. Start with your professors. Start with, you know, people that are in career service, people that you're having connections with all the time. Your best friend's parents, guess what? They work. Okay, start with them. Just start with a little circle, and it will grow. And before you know it, you'll have more than 100. Don't get caught up on the number. That's really what I was trying to say in my response. But you know, I was trying to do it quick and pay attention at the same time.
Thanks. Well, and I think that you hit on a great point there, right? Like if you're a current student, if you're an alum of the university, you've got some easy connections. Talk to the career office, find us on the LinkedIn, talk to your faculty members, talk to the people that you interacted with, especially if you were ever a student working on campus. You've got a really steady flow of people who are going to be willing to kind of accept you. I think if you look at my own LinkedIn, a huge number of those connections are students or alumni who I worked with very closely at some point in time. And I think the other added layer of that is make sure you come and talk to the career services office, right? Like Julie, Emily, Ashley, myself, Jen, our whole team is ready to help you. And so if you need a little bit of a brush up on your LinkedIn, or to help get you going on connections, come and visit us. We certainly are going to display our information in a little bit so you know how to get a hold of us, though.
Awesome.
So to follow up, would it be possible to get the Career Service Department to help us with feedback, and who should we contact if possible? Absolutely. That's what we are here for. We want to help our alumni and our current students get situated. So we'll display our contact information in just a little bit. We have Hilltop Careers, which is our database powered by Handshake. So that's how you can schedule appointments with us. You can also email our secareer@stedwards.edu, and you can also call our phone number, which will flash out in a little bit. Because we're not physically in the office right now, you'll have to leave a message for us, and then we'll go ahead and call you back. All right. Other questions?
Hey, Jason, I think one of the questions that we got privately were, what are some of the qualities or certifications that you should be looking for if you're looking for a LinkedIn mentor?
CJ, Jill, David, y'all want to take that one?
Sure. I was going to say, one, it depends on what field that you're interested in. And it could be more than one field. But if you're looking into, you know, maybe get into biotech, it'd be great if you could, you know, narrow down some job titles, and you can search within that particular industry and just reach out to them and ask, you know, they would be interested in mentoring you, and here's why, right? The certifications part, that's also going to depend on what type of role you're looking to secure and industry. But I think David said earlier, just be strategic. First, know what you want, narrow it down, and then try to develop a plan that will allow you to connect with people that would be beneficial for the industry you're interested in.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't have anything to add off that. That was really good.
All right, so we've got a few other questions here. Let's see here. How often should I be publishing or resharing information via LinkedIn?
What type of information are we talking about? Just posting or updating your profile, or it depends.
Maybe like articles that you found that were interesting, or other things that you just saw that were opportunities for people?
Right.
So I have a pretty strong opinion on this one. And I think it ties to a bigger issue. LinkedIn is not like going to Word. You don't go there once in a while when you need it. I'm on LinkedIn every day, even if it's for 5 minutes. I go in to look and see if I have any invites, if anything has come in messages. I look at it every day like I look at email. When I'm looking at articles or things, if it's related to the stuff I'm doing, and I think it would be interesting to people in my network, I post it. I don't try to do it on a schedule. I do it based on the content. But I treat LinkedIn every day, and I've done this for years since I was a CEO. I use it every time. I mean, every day. And so I think you've got to think about LinkedIn like you think about email. It's something you pay attention to every day for 5 minutes at a time. And I would also say, if you don't have it on your phone, I think you're missing out, because a lot of times you'll have these things that will come to you when you're out and about, and being able to pull it up quickly and do things, especially if you're out and you're going to be meeting people, you don't want to have to do it in the office and try to remember. I'll be sitting in a lobby getting ready to meet a reporter, for example. I'll go look on LinkedIn to find out about that person on my phone while I'm waiting. So I just think you need to realize it's a tool for business that many business people use on a daily basis. They don't do it by a schedule.
I have to agree with David, but that's because of the nature of my job, right? I'm in it all day. I mean, it stays open. And it's usually because I'm either trying to connect with candidates, or I'm trying to do business with different vendors that could help with our talent strategy. And yeah, I'm in it all the time. I mean, I'm helping my team members find candidates. So yeah, I'm in it probably 24/7, even on the weekends, but that's the nature of my job. I mean, but I also love the articles. So that's another thing. That's what keeps me there, is the articles that come up. So yeah, so David, I'm kind of a geek on that part, but it keeps me up to date what's happening in business, So like, for example, if I hear in an article that Thermo Fisher is about to have a layoff, what do you think I do? I go look up all the positions I got open, and I go search for those people that may be getting laid off. So I can tell them, hey, we're hiring. So it's strategic. I use it strategically.
And you just hit something that triggered, I think for me, one of the things I do on a regular basis, which at first I thought was kind of hokey, but it really has helped a lot, is that you'll get alerts every day, congratulate this person for this promotion. And I will reach out and I will say, even former students that get new jobs and they post them, hey, congratulations on the new job. And I am surprised at how many times that leads to something else coming back in a dialogue that happens. So I really think that idea of looking and doing the congratulations, if someone posts a nice article, when you said this is what triggered it, if I see an article that's really, really interesting, I'll go back and comment on it and say, wow, thanks for that great article. And a lot of times that'll start a new dialogue with that person.
Exactly. So let's see, Amanda has a question. How important is receiving and giving recommendations? Early in your career, I think is very valuable. But let me say this: be genuine about it. Don't be fake about it, because hiring managers and recruiters can kind of tell. So I would say, if you're working right now and you can get a genuine recommendation, go for it. Get it, because it's back to David said something earlier. It's not about how many you have. It's about the quality of what you have, because your profile is kind of like your professional brand. So you don't want a whole bunch of recommendations just for the sake of having recommendations. You want quality people that know your work and would stand up for what you do.
With that, CJ and Jill and David too, like, can there ever be a spot in which you've kind of shot yourself in the foot? Like, let's say that I go and give a recommendation to somebody, and then you and I know each other. Like, why on earth did you give that person a recommendation?
Yeah.
Are you crazy right now? What's going on? Right. So can that backfire from a networking perspective?
I mean, I've never thought about that. It could, but here's the deal. If it's genuine, then you're complimenting based on what you know about that person. And they could have worked for me and I thought they were horrible, but in your environment, you know, maybe you knew them at Habitat Humanity and they were the best volunteer on the block, right? So as long as you're talking about it from a space of, I know this to be true, I think you're okay. I mean, that's just, I don't know what David and Jill think. I've not had that happen to me, so I don't know.
I'll let Jill answer first, though.
Okay.
I haven't been shot in the foot yet. I have had a couple people ask for a recommendation, and I've politely declined on multiple occasions. But much to which CJ said, I'm very specific when I give a review or a recommendation about the time we spent together or a project that we worked on together. And so like she said, I really do speak to what I experienced with that person. So it's not necessarily just yeah, they're great at everything. I try to explain how they were great for our time together.
Yeah, yeah. And like Jill, I have had to decline some. I'm not gonna put my name, if I know without a shadow of a doubt, I'm not gonna put my name on it.
That's where I was gonna go to. I'm very selective of where I put it.
Right.
And I'm always, I'm not saying always, I'm frequently surprised at people that would ask me to do the references or to write a referral. It's like, were we not in the same place together? You know? But I think the other part is, it also matters who's on your, you know, who's referring you. And usually it happens because you ask them. Right. And so, you know, I think, you know, really thinking about the bosses. And I would also say, if you ask somebody for a referral and they politely decline, you need to do some soul searching about why that is. Mm-hmm. Because if they're declining your LinkedIn, they're probably declining. You don't want them as a reference for a job. Yeah. And you want to understand why, what you need to work on.
Right. That's true. And I want to add one thing too. Some companies have a policy. Well, I know we do. Like, I can't give my employees a recommendation on LinkedIn. Now, if they leave my team and go somewhere else, I can. But as long as they are reporting to me directly, we can't do that. So, you know, that could be the case too. So if somebody tells you no and they, you know, don't have a stable reason, it could be policy too. So just, you know, ask anyway. That's the only way you're going to learn. Just check in and find out why they declined it.
The one thing I will say that is kind of related, I'm trying to remember what they call it. They have the skills and endorsements.
Yes.
Piece, where you get to say, you know, David is good at this, this, this. Mm-hmm. You know, endorsed by, I'm looking right now, 23 of my colleagues. I don't think, when I look at people's stuff, I look at who may be endorsed, but I don't really pay much attention. Yeah, I think it's a vanity thing. It's like likes on a post. It makes me feel good to see those numbers, but I don't think it has any weight. I would rather see the referral and the written feedback. Yeah. I think that matters more than those skills and endorsements.
Yep.
So I have one more question before we kind of move to the close here. Are there any, you know, regardless of industry, are there any specific organizations or leaders in business that you would recommend people follow on LinkedIn just because they've got some good information on a consistent basis?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know there's people in town that I follow quite a bit, but you know, the question is, do I follow them for info on LinkedIn? Yeah, so okay, actually, I clicked, the first person I was gonna say was Brett Hurt, the founder of Bizarre Voice and Data.World. And I clicked on home and it's my first post. And he has posted a thing, says, I like Carly's approach. And it's Carly Berghoff, and she did a video about disconnects between companies' data and meaning. And I'll probably watch it now. It's interesting. So I think Brett Hurt's a really good person here locally to follow. He's very active.
Jill? CJ, go for it.
No, go ahead, Jill.
You know, I think we've hit on this a couple times, but following those organizations and industries that you're interested in are the biggest way to get insight into what's actually happening. And it would actually help you in the interview process to talk about what's going on in the industry. So from my perspective, anything creative, and I already mentioned, you know, having portfolios on Dribbble, Behance, or your own personal website, all of those are really important. But, you know, following UX design, following whatever industry you want to get in.
Can I actually share a horror story that that I now tell my students about all the time? And the CEO is fine. I don't know if CJ or Jill, you know him, but Amira Laquizi is the CEO of CreateJoy, which is a fairly good sized subscription SaaS company here in Austin, and a very good friend. And I was on Town Lake, and I was walking. He was running by, and as he was coming up, he said, "Hey, I interviewed one of your former students." And I go, "Oh, awesome! How'd it go?" And he said, "Terrible." As he ran by, I went, "What? What?" And he just took off running. So I'm like, "What the heck?" So I pulled aside, I text, and I said, "What the heck?" And he called back laughing, going, he said, "I didn't mean to freak you out." He goes, "But here's the deal. We're we're a subscription platform for things like Socks of the Week. This person hadn't even done the basic research to understand what we did and thought we did magazine subscriptions." He goes, "Why did they not look up at all and understand the business?" And I tell students all the time, you should go look up the company and then go to LinkedIn and look up the company and see if you know anybody there. Go look at their company page and find out what they say, what their values are. The more that you can talk to that company about what you know about them and why you're a fit for them, the better you're going to do in the interview. And I've never forgotten that. I still laugh about it going, "Really? Couldn't even look up the company? You bothered to get an interview?" And I think LinkedIn is great for giving you that other level, but you should never go for an interview without doing the basic research about the company that you're going to see.
Yep. Amen.
All right, so we've got a couple more minutes before we close it on out, but I just want to say another brief thank you to our panelists, Jill, CJ, and David, for such great responses tonight. And thank you again, Julie, for running us through the tutorial. I am gonna share my screen again and pass it back to Julie and then Gabby to kind of talk through what's next. All right, Julie.
Okay, so as we've mentioned throughout, career and professional development is definitely here to help you, during your time on the Hilltop and beyond. So that's the link to our website, which is just stedwards.edu/career. You can meet with the career counselors on a wide range of topics. The ones listed there are just kind of some of the main ones. Of course, LinkedIn being the focus of today. So like Jason mentioned earlier, whether it's about just getting your profile started and up and running, or trying to figure out how to get started building connections. Like I think all of the panelists mentioned, it's just about getting started. Try to think in small steps. We can definitely help you with that. Jason mentioned our Hilltop Careers database. So that's what you can use to look at information about our events, look at job and internship postings, and also use that to make an appointment with a career counselor. I would really emphasize that, especially now that we're working virtually, making an appointment on Hilltop Careers is really the most efficient way to schedule, because otherwise we're going to be playing phone and email tag of, "Are you available at this time?" And I don't hear from you from 3 days, and then that's time's no longer available. So it's really good, if you haven't already, get your Hilltop Careers profile activated as an alum. There's instructions on the alumni tab on our webpage on how to do that. And then on our website, we also have other job and internship search resources, opportunities, other helpful guides related to best practices in the different areas that we advise on. So that's all on our website. Use it. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Ways to reach out, like I said, that's our main email address. If you have any of the career counselors' email addresses, you can always use our our work email addresses as well directly. You can give us a call. Like Jason said, right now, we are going to be responding to messages because we are remote. So just know, again, there may be some back and forth. We also have walk-in hours. So as of right now, we're doing those from 12 to 5, Tuesday through Thursday. So you can check in online for those, and then a counselor will send you the link to the Zoom room, so you can ask quick questions about 10 or 15 minutes, but you don't need to have an appointment scheduled in advance. You can just pop in during those windows of time. And definitely keep an eye out for our events. We're doing more of these sessions and other events that we're going to have coming back up in the fall.
Thanks, Julie. Gabby, bring it on home.
Hi, everyone. So once again, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here. We do appreciate the time that you have given us today. As I mentioned, I work with the Alumni Association, and both the career office, but especially the Alumni Association, are here for you once you graduate. So you can follow us on all social media. We're on everything except for TikTok, pretty sure. But also, if you keep your contact information updated, you'll be getting the magazine and events near you, which look a little bit different right now during COVID, but once they will remain virtual and they will be in person at some point. So the point of this is stay connected to us and to each other. We can help you facilitate those connections or reconnections if you want to get back in touch with classmates. We look forward to hearing from you, and I'll let Jason close it out.
All right, so this was our second installment of our Topper Career Talks, and so we have a few more coming up. So next time at the end of July, we'll be talking about how you get to the interview. So what are the things that are really going to set you apart to get noticed, and so you can actually get that interview. And then our August session is going to be a Career Makeover 101. So this is going to be primarily for the folks who are saying, hey, I want to switch it up. I want to change careers altogether. How do I get from industry A to industry B and maybe even industry C, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to bring in some pros to talk us through that as well. But that is all we've got for you tonight. And so again, we appreciate your time, and we hope that you come back and see us again for our future installments. I hope everybody has a wonderful evening, and reach out to us if you need anything, okay? Take care.
Thank you all.